Hello and welcome to the third dev update for Starship Simulator. It's been a while since the last video, so I thought I'd do a quick tour of the ship and show you all the things we've updated and changed over the last month or so. We start off on the bridge here. In fact, not a lot has changed on the bridge, and that's because I'm going to be removing this rear wall section, because I've never been happy with how flat it is, and I'll be replacing that with a more of a curved design, so that it's in keeping with the rest of the bridge structure. So it'll follow the curve of the pit area, and these screens will be more integrated into the design. I think overall that will just work a lot nicer. I'll be keeping the large panoramic windows, because I think it's important to have a good view of the grandeur of space as you're exploring distant exoplanets. And speaking of planets, I've replaced the ground texture on the Earth here, and I've also updated the atmosphere component, so it's more in keeping with the photos you see coming from the ISS. I think it's important to have this as photorealistic as possible. So if we continue through the rest of A deck, the bathroom here is going to be replaced most likely with an armoury. The reason for that is that although it's convenient for the bridge crew to have a bathroom right there, it is the only bathroom for the lounge as well, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense for all the officers in the lounge to have to traipse up all the way pretty much back to the bridge to use the bathroom, and I'm sure the captain doesn't want to be looking at people coming in and out of the bathroom all day either, so that's going to be replaced. Captain's office can stay as is, the XO's office can stay as is, and again the conference room will stay as it is. The VIP lounge itself obviously still needs to be finished. The ceiling area here, it's a bit boxy for my liking. I'm going to curve that off a bit, and obviously the mezzanine and the stairs, they all need to be finished as well, as does the bar area. But as we have a look closer down here, these were two VIP crew quarters, but I've taken those out in favour of having some bathrooms and storage on this side, so that these chairs and tables have somewhere to go. And on this side we're going to have a galley kitchen and some food stores. So this entire area will be well served with a galley, a bathroom, storage, so everything that's needed to have this as a functional, operational part of the ship. The rest of B deck has been pretty much pulled apart. This is where the VIP quarters were, but I need to rebuild that section and put them back in again. So right now it's just the bare structural framework. And actually, just something to point out here, it looks like that's a bug, but actually that's one of the weld lines from the framework structure. So you can see here where all the framework is all connected. All these pieces do have visible weld lines where it's all built, just to kind of underline the fact that it's a real physically built ship. The whole stairwell here is completely redone, and this here is the crew lift, which again has been made bigger and wider. And in the previous design, the stairs kind of wound their way around the ship as you went down, and now it's a vertical stack all the way through, which means that the lift there stays in line with the stairwell all the way down vertically. So if we drop down onto C deck, as the sign would suggest, this is the main signs deck. This sign's not final, that's going to be replaced with something a bit more ornate. And again, the stairs here have been updated, and yes, there are chickens, quite a few chickens. In fact, there's 196 chickens, and the reason there are so many chickens is that I wanted to have the full crew complement just randomly roaming the ship, just as a performance test to show whether or not that was viable, and it is. These chickens quite happily roam the ship, so wherever you go you'll see chickens at the moment. But yes, so this is pretty much the final stair design, and in the previous build this section was completely empty. In fact, I don't think it even had a floor. So this is all new. The door design, so the actual framework around the door design, that's all completely new, and all the panelling has been updated to a newer design. This is also new as well. This is what will be a bulkhead, and there'll be lots of those all over the ship. So with this being the science deck, if I go back to the aft section here, I've started adding signs around the ship so you can start finding your way around a bit better. So you can see that with that being aft, this side would be port, and they're all colour coded, so you can see here the same. A few of the rooms, I'm not quite sure what I'm putting in them yet, but there are 11 main lab areas, and they're quite big, so some of them might need to be split up. So if I go into this one, you can see that the actual physical space is quite large. So for, say, a geology lab, that might be too big, but we'll see. And I need to cut some windows out there as well. So that's pretty much C deck, and if I run around the outer ring here, you can see that it's just all science laboratories. They're all the same size, but again, some of these might be subdivided depending on need. And when it comes to actually building the internal rooms within these structures, we could have sub-rooms and maybe separate offices or labs within this footprint. This is probably a good time to demonstrate something else which is new, and that is the ability to damage parts of the ship. So if I shoot a wall panel, or two, you can see that they break and smash, and if I just shoot them once, you can see that they're not entirely broken, but not entirely healthy either. And this will play into the overall damage system, where everything on the ship will have health, and as you fly around space and explore the galaxy, everything will slowly take wear and tear damage over time, and as an engineer on the ship, it'll be your job to keep this up to date and keep it repaired. But yeah, it's quite therapeutic just running around shooting everything up. And that damage will persist now. So if I turn the torch on, this will stay here like this until it's repaired. I've done a lot of work on optimization and keeping this system as optimized as possible. In fact, if I turn on some stats there, you can see that I'm getting, turn the light on, I'm getting 200 frames a second. I've got a 2080 Ti, i7, 32 gig of RAM, so it's a fairly high-end system, but still pretty good, 200 frames a second, considering that the entire ship is currently here, loaded at once. There's no loading screens, no streaming levels, it's all here permanently. And yeah, and because of lots of optimizations, this all runs nice and smooth. Our target system is a 1050 Ti with an i5 processor, and on that target system we're seeing around about 50 to 60 frames a second for the most part, so we're trying to keep that optimized for that particular system, which means it should work on most computers quite well. So where are we? So we're on C deck, yeah. So if we go down to the next deck, so again, C deck is entirely science, so all of the science activity will happen here, and all of the science-based role activities will happen somewhere on C deck. So if you choose the scientist role, you'll be bouncing between the various different labs. So come down to D deck. So again, this is crew habitation upper. So this is part of the main habitation of the ship, and if we look at the label here, it's saying DP101 to DP102. That's D deck port, ring 1, so this is the first ring of many, cabins 1 to 2. So there's DP101 and DP102. So on this side, this is the forward section, so it's DF101 and 102. So that would be the naming convention for all the rooms on the ship, to help find them. So the ship itself is split into forward, aft, port and starboard. So those are the 4 quadrants, and then within those 4 quadrants you've got the rings. So ring 1, and then ring 2 here, and so on. So you see that one I haven't labelled. In fact, none of these have been labelled. I need to label them manually, so I haven't got around to that yet. I've actually added a mini game where you have to find and gravity assist all the chickens. Hours of fun. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So yeah, so this section of D-Deck, and indeed E-Deck, is pretty much entirely crew quarters. So if we go into one and have a look, this is pretty much the size of all the crew quarters, depending on whether they're on the inner or outer ring, or which part of the deck they're on. Some are smaller than others, but generally speaking, this is the kind of size you'll be looking at. Each crew quarters is single occupancy. It'll have a separate bathroom, a double bed, and a small lounge area with a small kitchenette. Chicken. This area here will be another stairwell. There are actually 4 of these around this particular ring, so the main stairwell won't be the only way up and down between D and E decks. And indeed, it's not built yet, but you'll have the main crew lounge, shuttle bay and everything else beyond this section, and they'll have their own ways up and down as well. So there'll be multiple ways of traversing the ship. So if we run down to D-Deck, E-Deck even, so this deck's the same, essentially, at least in the central section here. Most of the outer rooms will be dual deck. Oh, I've just been picked up by a chicken. They do like to pick you up and carry you around. Anyway. So yeah, so the first 3 rings on both D and E decks will just be purely crew quarters, and then beyond that you'll have all the other crew facilities, such as the Arboretum, the main lounge, washing facilities, a gym. So D and E decks are essentially a self-contained habitation area that should provide everything the crew needs to survive a long journey in space. So we go down to F deck. So systems and engineering. This isn't the lowermost deck, but it is the lowermost deck you can get to via the stairs. There will actually be a security desk here, and they'll be basically challenging anyone coming down to this deck, either from the lift here or from the stairs. So this will be access controlled. Over here, that's the main reactor room through there. So this is only chickens in a reactor. This is only a placeholder for now, but this will be the main fusion reactor and all the systems that are connected to it. And all of that will be controlled from this room in here, opposite. So this will be the main engineering control room, and along the wall here you'll have various screens and readouts showing the status of all the systems. And all of that will be updated in real time, so you'll be able to see the state of the reactor, its power output, and all that kind of thing. The chief engineer's office will be here, and it's quite a large area, so I'll probably double it up as a bit of a meeting room as well. So along with his desk there'll be a sofa and maybe a small conference table there. I haven't added it yet, but there will be a door here to a small break room and toilet area as part of that section. Okay, so most of the rooms on F deck will be 2-story, other than all the ones around the outside here. So all of these ones are going to be the main battery rooms. So all the way along that rear section are going to be arrays of solid-state batteries, and we'll go and look at that from the other side in a minute via the maintenance tunnels. And you can see here that it's just literally main batteries all the way around the outside of F deck. If we run down to one of these rooms here, and try not to fall into it, this is one of the two-story rooms. So this one, I believe, is going to be the main fuel harvesting room. So there'll be fuel tanks, and beyond that framework at the bottom there will be gas harvesting hardware. So there'll be sort of a gas scoop underneath the ship in the front section, and the idea is that the ship will skim the cloud layer of a gas giant to harvest any gases that it needs. So things like helium-3, for example, is going to be one of the main ones for the fusion reactor. So all of these rooms are going to be two-story. Right, if we go down to G deck, torch again, because this is all under construction. So yeah, the main reactor is going to be 4 stories tall, and this room is going to be full of various gantries and access ways. All of the wiring and cabling and systems on the ship will traverse through this reactor room and go back through the wall to supply all the decks themselves. So for example, you can see here, running through the floor, we've got some power cables. They will connect to the reactor. I'm not sure whether I haven't brought it through yet, but they'll come down through a power manifold, or a bus bar manifold, and that power will be taken out to each quadrant of the ship. So if you remember, there's port, starboard, forward and aft. They're all completely isolated quadrants that are independently powered. So if we hop into the maintenance tunnel here, so you can see the aircon units running through there, or the HVAC rather, and the power cables. There's going to be a lot more traversing through these tunnels yet. These stairs are temporary. So these brown ones here, those are going to be the main feeds coming off of the reactor, and they'll be going through the wall here into the back of those solid state batteries. So on the other side of this here are those rooms we were in just now, and this goes all the way around the underside of the ship. And again, as an engineer, you'll be in these maintenance tunnels, repairing equipment and swapping things out and keeping the ship running smoothly. This bit hasn't been finished yet, as you can see, but this will lead to, at the front of the ship, it'll be going to the RCS thruster units and the weapons arrays, and at the rear of the ship it'll be going to the main engines and the Alcubierre drive. So as an engineer, you'll be able to get, what on earth? Chicken? As an engineer, you'll be able to get anywhere on the ship by traversing through these maintenance tunnels. Well, I say anywhere on the ship. Anywhere there is hardware that requires maintenance, you'll be able to get to it without having to pass through the habitational areas of the ship. And I haven't quite decided what to do with the walls here yet. Chickens everywhere. Okay, well I think that's pretty much everything. The thing that's taken the most time, really, has been these maintenance tunnels, because before I had all of the corridors going north, south, east, west, or forward, aft, port and starboard, I've had to rotate the whole thing 45 degrees so that these tunnels line up with the RCS thrusters, the main engines, the Alcubierre drive, the weapons, so that you can get to all these things in a straight line quickly and easily. And because of having to rotate the whole ship on the inside, that means I had to also then redo all the rooms and the wall panels and everything. So that's taken a bit of time to do, but it is now done. So the next job is going to be working on the engineering control room here and the actual reactor room itself. So they are next on the to-do list. Okay, well, I think that's everything. I will shoot another chicken for good luck. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting from people on Patreon. I'm sorry, I don't have a list of names with me right now, but I speak to you all regularly, and honestly, it means a huge amount to us that you're supporting the project. Without your help, we just couldn't get this done. And yeah, and hopefully we'll have another video update soon with lots more floating chicken shenanigans. And I will continue shooting up the ship because it's a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.